Okay, guys, I'm going to make this brief because I want to get through this very quickly and get my thoughts about what happened with Jordan Grace TNA at WWE. I'm nasally, I'm congested, my allergies are messing with me. I've taken my medicine, I got to take another set of medicines after this. There will be no images included other than my intro. That's it. I'm sorry. When you feel like this, you don't want to do nothing. So let's go through the show, and I'm going to say this clearly. It is obvious that, as you guys already know, TNA tapes. So when you see what happened with Jordan Grace, it was just tacked in there. There's really no extra bit in the show other than what the courtesy of TKO WWE did and letting them show their footage at NXT when Jordan Grace showed up. I'm saying it right now because there's no reason to wait, because TNA was allowed to finally show, because they could have released it probably earlier than that, but they had to wait because they had to wait for permission to allow to do it. Jordan Grace on Jordan Grace on NXT TV facing Roxanne Perez. It's been I will talk about it more in length after this, but I'm going to make this very clear. Nothing else has changed in the broadcast that we received other than that one part that was inserted. So if you thought that they were going to do something dramatic, this episode of Impact, wrong. Remember, this is taped. They didn't do anything other than just show the footage. Let's move on. First match, Ace Austin versus a Chris Bay. Seeing we need to work some stuff out. We need to do this. That's what Ace wanted to do. They had this match. And you can see, you can see that this is a good match. Both these guys knew each other very well. They didn't want to punch each other in the face, but they did do elbows. The one thing you understand, if you get hit like this, that means I honestly hate you. But if you get a little bit of elbows, I don't like you, but it's not like I hate you. That's how it went. Chris Bay won. Chris put out his hand after it was over. And Ace was very reluctant at first. He did raise his hand eventually. Then he called him over. He hugged him. And then as they both were leaving, you got Ace Austin opening the ring rope for Chris. And then Chris opened the rope for Ace. I don't know if this is over, because I have this feeling it's not, because of the possibility they still want to break them up. Even though they had this match does not mean it's over. I just don't see it over. I just don't see the Ace is going to be done with this and feeling not better than Chris. I'm sorry. As much as I don't want the ABC to break up, because they have so few tag teams in the company, they may go there. Next, we got Xia Brookside versus a Steph DeLander. This was not about the match. This was about PCO, who was hiding under the ring, and Steph, who could not beat Xia, decides, you know what, forget this. I'm going to get a chair. I'm going to nail her. He's holding on to the damn chair. She's pulling it out. And she said, what are you doing here? You're not helping me. And because of that distraction, she got rolled up and pinned. And she's in the ring after she lost. Oh, damn, I didn't want to. Damn, I was so close to sneezing, and it didn't happen. But when you see PCO, he is in the ring with her, and she said, what do you want? You messed up my match. He puts his hand on his finger on her lips, takes out a letter, opens it with her name Steph on it. She didn't open up the entire thing to read it, but he opens it up, throws it into the camera, and pretty much, I might do this in the thumbnail. Maybe I might do a thumbnail with this, with images in it. That won't take me long. But she gets the letter, and she folds it up and puts it in her top, in her onelet, near her titty. Everyone is looking at it like, ooh, even Xia is clapping. But you can see that what exactly we're getting here. How far are they going with this? Are they really going there with Steph DeLander and PCO? Not everyone's going to like it. Not other people will. Personally, I don't have a problem with it, because TNA has always been known to do these types of things. It's going to depend now. Are they going to continue being over the top when it comes to how they do romances and then if they do weddings. Because I'm hoping there will be no wedding. Because if you do a wedding, there has to be a good payout afterward. And it's been hit and miss. The best one I think they had was Laura Van Ness, the, you know, Chelsea Green. Her wedding was one of the best I've ever seen, where a woman had a total breakdown and turned into a new character. I think that was one of the best things they ever wrote for a knockout that I know of. Because I know they've had it before that. But when it came to Laura Van Ness, I think they wrote the best turn for someone to lose their mind. That's what I think. Next, let's do Jonathan Gresham versus a Sami Callihan. Look, the octopus is actually quite interesting. There's no way I'm going to tell you that this is not one of the more interesting things they have on the show. You got him showing his true mask. And now, due to the fact of him showing his true mask, he's spitting up ink. And the entire match was about Jonathan Gresham wanting to bite a Sami in his own hometown. Well, not town, but his own home state of Ohio. It was Cincinnati. He's not from there. But pretty much, Ohio versus everything has always been Sami's stick. But not this time. This was about Jonathan Gresham wanting to bite him, seeing that the ref had to wear masks and gloves because of the last ref, and Kushida got sick because of Jonathan Gresham. I'm going to tell you this. When it comes down to it, what's going on with Jonathan is quite interesting. I cannot tell you it is not. It is. I got no idea where they're going with it. But seeing that he's kind of like the walking representation of COVID-19, because that's what he feels like. The walking representation of COVID-19, where he's just making everybody sick and everything's going to grind to a halt because of him. That's what I'm thinking is. Excuse me. That is what I'm thinking when it comes to Jonathan. He's going to grind everything to a halt. He will make everyone sick, whoever faces him. And the question is going to be, what would they do with that type of story? He does win because Sami tried to stop him from putting spit in his hand and he held his mouth and he got black stuff over his hands. So the question is going to be, is he going to get sick next? And I do believe he will, but it's going to be a question how far they're going to go with it. Next, Santana versus Macklin. And let me give it to you like this. I like how Santana's been brought in. I do like how Santana's music reflects how he's been brought in. Do I believe that his ring attire kind of matches that? No, particularly he's got the Puerto Rican flag on his hip. And it kind of looks off. It looks like it should not be there. It should be either sewn into his pants or sewn into his shirt or something else. Maybe an elbow pad with the Puerto Rican stuff on it. Because as it's on his hip, it looks really awkward due to the fact it's not fully attached. It looks like it has a little flexible kind of rubber holding it straight on his hip so it can look like it's always floating like a flag. I think it looks awkward. That's me. To be honest, I'm not really caring that much about the Puerto Rican flag. So seeing how it's being treated in this respect doesn't really upset me. Just in case anybody will know, I don't really care about the flag. It is a Commonwealth flag. But the point is that the way it's being represented on him as a flag, it looks awkward. It would have been better if it had been fully sewn but loose at the end and it could just flap around instead of having like a little rubber piece in there trying to make it look straight off of his hip and ass. Really looks awkward. Good match until we get the Rascals interfering with it and then beating them both down. So the question is going to be with Santana and Macklin, are they going to team up to go up against the Rascals? Because that's what it looks like they're going to do. I don't know if they should do that or shouldn't. It's going to depend on what they're going to do after it's over. Because if Macklin's still going to have a feud with Santana, the question is going to be, will this be about honor or just going to be that he wants to bury him? I don't know. Next, the final match, Eddie Edwards versus Joe Henley. Now, knowing that I believe song is 5th or 6th on the charts in the UK, makes him very interesting. You don't usually get someone who sings as a wrestler and legitimately gets over in the actual movie charts of any city or any state or any country. We don't usually get it. So, well, we did have that with Mickie James, but let me give it to you like this. Mickie James has always been singing. She does country, but she's one of the few. I mean, that's the truth. Joe Hendley is, in this situation, very over. And I didn't expect him to lose here. But the question's going to be, what would we do with him now? I mean, he's not digital media champion. He's not going after the X Division champion yet. We still got time before Against All Odds, but what, excuse me, what are we going to do with him? Since he's got popularity behind him, they got to do something with him, and I'm not sure what it is. It was all right match, and in the end, he did win. Particularly, it was a good thing that Nick and Ryan came out to back him up right before the match started. But in the end, I don't know. Now, let's get to the final things here, the most important things. First, I want to say, seeing that Matt was destroyed by Moose when it was at the end of the show, actually the match was over, they were how can I say this? Moose wanted to take out Matt. They waited until the end of the show, and after the match was over, and then they showed the fight where Matt get laid out by Moose. Is this a good thing? Yeah, this is what Moose does usually, and he does it pretty damn well, and it's going to lead into Against All Odds. The question's going to be, what will Matt's response be? And I know one of you is going to talk about it, what about Speedball Mike Bailey? I'm not saying the opposite. I'm sorry. I'm not calling him what you want me to call him. I'm never going to call him the other thing other than Speedball Mike Bailey, because if he's not working with, guess who? The one who named him that. Matt Hardy and Trent Seven, who will soon have his match against Odd from Ali. I'm never going to call him that, but if he calls in Speedball Mike Bailey and Trent Seven to back him up against the system, it makes sense. Unless we're going to have Ryan and Nick to back him up. Because that's going to be a big question. Will he go to Ryan and Nick, or will he go to Speedball or Trent Seven? That's going to be the question about that. Next. This was an interesting situation. You got Jake basically being bumped by Khan. And now a match is being set up for that. But as I told you guys, and I know there's some people that really wish the Deaners would just go back to being the Deaners. It's not going to happen. Jake something is Jake something. And Diener is Diener. And even though they're letting them be around each other, they're not going back to the way they were. If they do, as I said before, it will be a step down for their work. It will be a step down because they had no idea what to do with Deaners. And then when they broke them away and let them develop on their own, they both developed very well in themselves. And very well be without each other. If you revert them back to Cousin Jake and Cody Diener, it will be a step down, and I will poon it every single time I see it. But as you already know, there's going to be a match next week between Khan and Jake. And Jake said, don't interfere. I appreciate you, but don't interfere. So that I'm wondering how far that's going to go. And what's exactly going to happen. I didn't expect Jake to turn heel because he's not. Someone said, oh, Jake's turning heel because he nailed Cody. No. Cody's Cody, and Jake is Jake. The question is, what's going to happen with Khan? Will he gain something from this? I don't know. Now, the interview with Gazelle Shaw and the Gail Kim. Here's what's going to be interesting because of her story. Because the last time she had a match, she got her butt kicked by Jordan Grace. She went away because she didn't know what the hell to do with herself. Now, she's been brought back because of Gail Kim, and she made it very clear, what do you want? This is not about the quintessential diva. That will only get you so far, which you already know has ended. Why are you wrestling? Why do you want to stay a wrestler? Why did you come here? And Gazelle, as she answered those questions, particularly the one particularly wondered why that I came to because you asked me. That was to Gail. She said, yeah, I asked you. But now what's the reason for you to stay? What is your motivation? Start from the ground up. You got beaten. You lost yourself. Now you got to start over again and find out what the fundamentals are, what you want. Now, this is a good thing. A character development for Gazelle Shaw that we normally do not see. She's been the quintessential diva since she came in. And clearly, and this is what real life is, guys. Gazelle Shaw's actual boyfriend is not there anymore. Unless they bring him back. And that's Scott D'Amore as basically an on-screen character because they're not going to let him be president again. Unless the current president really screws up badly. He will only come back as a character if he ever does. And Gazelle Shaw, she's not with a man. So the question is going to be, is this kind of adding on to the story? Because everyone knows the reason. The story's already been there. If you look at a diary, you know they were a couple. There's no problem with it. The question is, how are they going to incorporate this into a story? And should they? To be honest, if they do bring back Scott D'Amore, he should become a manager. Because that's the best way it's going to work. You're not going to worry about him interfering. He's going to be working in the knockouts division. That would be the best option that I think it'll be. But this is just me. Let me give it to you like this. Because it's now time to talk about this. Because I did say this. Now I want to finish up because my throat hurts. When it comes down to it, when it came to Jordynne Grace showing up on NXT, facing Roxanne Perez, and now going for her title and trying to become a double champion of TNA and NXT. I know a lot of people have been losing their damn minds. I've already seen more than a few people who are now talking about the dream matches that can appear from NXT and WWE. Others are saying the dream matches not from NXT, but from the main roster. There's one guy over there who thinks Charlotte Flair is one of the best wrestlers. He lost his damn mind. Charlotte only can get herself over. She can barely get anybody else over. He thinks she can get everybody else over. She can't. Because every person she's ever worked with was already over and she didn't need to help them. But he's just a Charlotte Flair fan. That's understandable. He's gotten a bias. But here's the thing that I have to say to anyone who's watching this, who's a diehard NXT fan, who's a diehard TNA fan, and is losing their damn mind imagining what matches you might get from the main roster of Raw, SmackDown, and NXT compared to the main roster of TNA. Stop it. I'm saying this as someone who will not be upset for anything they give us, but stop it. Because we've gone through this thing before. Have you forgotten what happened a year and nearly 2 years ago or more when it came to AEW working with us? As a TNA fan, or an Impact fan at that time, I was happy when Kenny Omega came over. I was happy when Christian Cage came over. I was happy when Matt Hardy, when he was still working with AEW, came over. But guess what? Did we ever get the opposite? Once. Well, twice. But once on a pay-per-view. And that was at Daly's Place while it was still empty. And once for the Motor City Machine Guns, who had to become heels and job their damn asses off. And guess what? JD saw them as a joke. Because he thought they couldn't wrestle. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm fucking wrong, because I'm not. We've had 2 crossovers only. We had 3 people who came over. One came over for a little while, Christian Cage. One came over for a little while, and Matt Hardy. And one who stayed a lot, which was the one who gained our title, Kenny Omega. And in the end, what did we gain when it was all over? A big fat goose egg. You know why? Because there was no cross-pollination. We had none of our own people appear over in AEW more at all. Except for Moose in a pay-per-view at Daly's Place. And once with the Motor City Machine Guns, who jobbed their asses off and looked like they were bitches. You guys don't want to hear anything other than the excitement of wanting to see all these matches. And understand, I want to see them too, but I am a realist. I can tell you right now, the big question is not about how many more collaborations. It's about when it's over. Remember, collaborations only last for a certain amount of time. And then they're done. It's not the point they can renew it. It's the point of when it's done, what happens to who done the collaboration? Do they gain anything? None of you are thinking that. Nobody wants to think about what will be for the future of TNA. The only thing they want to see is the present in every imaginary match they can get. I've seen what happened when we had a collaboration. I reviewed those collaborations on this channel. And what did we really get by the end of it? Nothing. We gained no increase in people. We gained no increase at all when it came to the ratings. We didn't even get any of our own people over there other than Moose once in a pay-per-view, and maybe about a year or so later when it came to the Motor City Machine Guns, and they didn't even want to say that they were from Impact Wrestling. They were just the Motor City Machine Guns, and they got their asses whooped. They couldn't even represent Impact Wrestling because Tony decided not to say, this is a Motor City Machine Guns from Impact Wrestling. No, they were the Motor City Machine Guns who had been well known in New Japan Pro Wrestling as well as New Japan Pro Strong. What happened to Impact? You were working with them. I'm telling you right now, I'm not against TKO WWE working with TNA. I'm not. I am a realist. I know they're going to do something with Jordan Grace, Roxanne Perez. We might get Moose, maybe, interacting with someone. I can't tell you. No matter what you say, what about this? What about it? I'm going to say, I don't know. I don't know if there's only going to be just Jordan Grace only. You can imagine all you want, but we may only get Jordan Grace dealing with Roxanne Perez, and then Jordan Grace with somebody else, like maybe like Natalya. You never know. Only thing I can tell you, we're going to enjoy what we're going to get, but be a realist here. What happens after the collaboration's over? Will TNA gain something? Think about this. Because remember, we went through this once before. I'm repeating it again. And we gained nothing. This. TNA went back to TNA. We shouldn't have had to turn to TNA. Because guess what? We worked with AEW. Shouldn't Impact Wrestling gotten more popular without the name of the change? No. Why? Because they gained nothing. Nothing. I say it again. We gained nothing. No matter how much you want to say, oh, it was great wrestling. Who fucking cares? What happened with the company? Nothing. Nothing happened with Impact Wrestling until they decided they had no other option but to revert their name back to TNA because a collaboration with AEW gained them nothing. They were already popular internationally. We know this. Nationally, they're considered the third biggest company. And in many cases, fourth due to the fact of how much people are already talking about MLW. So, what do you got now? Think about it, guys. Think. Don't just imagine. Think. Think about what we'll gain in the future more than what we're going to gain now. Peace.